Deputy President. I rise to speak on an issue relating to violence on women and children in our society. I've made a pledge in this place on a number of occasions to continue to keep this discussion alive and in front of colleagues, in front of legislators, so that each day we make considerations on issues in this place and the other place, that we give consideration to the impact of those decisions on being able to progress culturally and otherwise measures that will mitigate and hopefully extinguish this terrible practice in our society. And today, in particular, I want to make reference to a report very ably named, very appropriately named, Not Now, Not Ever, published as the result of an inquiry into these matters by the Queensland Government. Mr Acting Deputy President, the inquiry was conducted under the very professional eye of the Honourable Quentin Bryce, a past governor in that state, and a very respected Australian. Ms Bryce brought together a panel of people made up of some legislators, people representing pastoral care organisations and otherwise community representatives. And they were eventually to publish a very detailed report listing out their findings and making no less than 140 recommendations. Now, whilst the report itself is directed at measures that can be implemented, in this case by the Queensland State Government, I think it is rich in ideas that ought to be considered by all of the legislative chambers in the country, including our House of Representatives and the very Senate in which we sit. And I want to open with a statement that is in the preface of the report, the words of the Honourable Quentin Bryce, where she says, and I think this really goes to the heart of the issue, "It is beholden upon us all, every single citizen of this diverse, vibrant state is her word, but I say nation, to take a stand against domestic and family violence, to commit to protecting the vulnerable, and to make it clear to those who would hurt another within a relationship of intimacy and trust that we will not tolerate, excuse, condone or accept their behaviour." I say, Mr Acting Deputy President, that has effectively set the tone of the objectives that this inquiry decided to pursue. And I quote another section. It says, "Domestic and family violence in all forms is a violation of basic human rights. Everyone, regardless of their sex, religion, nationality, race, language, relationship or living arrangements, has the right to feel safe and be safe in public and at home. Domestic and family violence, which is perpetrated in the home or among family members, is as much a matter of public concern as crime on the streets. It must not be accepted nor excused. Not now, not ever." The course of this report directs, in the time provided today, it is impossible for me to go across in any detail, although I will be continuing to articulate the objectives and the recommendations of this report for some time to come. But the inquiry found fundamentally that there is to be three phases in the nation's response, in this case the state's response, to this problem. And it talks about looking over the horizon. I look up today and there's a fine body of young men here from one of our nation's colleges looking down on this legislature. And this report, the journey that we need to make, is in your hands as much as is in the hands of our respective governments. The report focuses on recommendations for the now, to see that we immediately and properly resource those professionals in the community that are at the coalface of this particular problem. Talks about policy upgrades, talks about elevating the importance of the response of our agencies and ensuring that they have the financial, human and physical resources to be able to do their job. It talks about the upgrade of the response, meaning that, for example, our law enforcement agencies need to treat their response to incidents of domestic violence right at the top of the pinnacle of their services that they provide to our community. Oftentimes, and it's well known that I'm a retired police officer, oftentimes responses to domestic violence can be treated in a secondary fashion due to other things going in the lives of these professionals who provide this service. Well, it's time now. It's time now for all the agencies to make sure that that first line, that immediate response, is enhanced. The report then makes recommendations about the medium term, again with an emphasis on restructuring policies about how we respond. Further resourcing needs that will require ongoing debate and, of course, provision by both the Commonwealth and state agencies to be able to provide that financial support to allow these professionals to do their job. The development and implementation of training, allowing training, not just training, but also the operation of some public campaigns, some public awareness campaigns that will be directed at ensuring that every single Australian, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, and no matter what it is you do, must involve themselves in the appropriate responses to stamp out this cowardly behaviour by these grubs. I have no other name to call them. But in the long term, the report emphasises that this requires a cultural change. This requires us beginning to educate our young ones in their formative years, young men to deter them of the practice, young women to ensure that they know what options are available and to know that they are loved and supported by their family and their community as we all battle this insidious disorder. So in closing, I say to the young men, and I say through you to all the young men in our nation, that in effect this is a man's problem. In effect this is a man's problem. The vast majority of the instances are men exercising the power on women and children. So if we're at the heart of the problem, we're at the heart of the solution. And every man in this country must now wake up each day and determine what they can do. The time for talking, the time for establishing that we have a problem, I say, is behind us. We know what we need to do. We must now demonstrate the will to do it, and we must do so under the umbrella of the wonderful name of this report in relation to domestic violence on women and children. Not now, not ever.
Thank you, Senator.